All right, and welcome. And we promised that you'd get to meet the Terrebonne Parish president candidates. And Darrin Guidry is in the studio with us now. And Darrin, welcome aboard. How are you?
Thank you, Martin, and thank you for having us. I think you do a vital service for the community, and we appreciate you getting the information out for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so I guess first of all, thank you for running. Takes a lot to get in a race like this, doesn't it?
It does. No doubt you have to have a thick skin, and you also have to have your family behind you. And I explained to all my family beforehand, you never know what is going to be said about you. So, and you never know what's going to be said about me. I don't care. I have a thick skin, but my wife really, if somebody tries to say something bad about me, she gets really upset. And so I told her beforehand, people are going to say things. And you just got to have a thick skin, because as we know, everything on Facebook is the truth, right?
Oh, absolutely right. No doubt. And YouTube, for sure. Tell us a little bit about yourself. The audience, in general, wants to know each candidate. Who is Darrin Guidry?
Well, Darrin Guidry is a businessman, a lifelong Republican, a conservative. And, my entire business career as well as public career has been in servicing people. As you know, I was in the radio background. I ran radio stations at the young age of 24. I was hired to run this radio station called KCIL 107.5 when Guarantee Broadcasting out of Baton Rouge bought it. They saw what I had been done in my young career, and they trusted a 24-year-old, and we did very well with that. Went into the newspaper business serving readers, and the radio station you serve listeners. So I've always served people, either listeners or readers. In the case of my wife and I's business, the Tri-Parish Times and the Gumbo Entertainment Guide that we had. And so when we sold that business, it was natural a hole in service. And so the opportunity came up to run for parish council. So I said, then I could serve constituents. And over the last 8 years, that's what I've done. I've worked on servicing the people who elected me to be a councilman. Now the next stage is being able to serve all the people in Terrebonne Parish. I work hard and use my experience that I've had, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but I served 6 years on the Terrebonne Economic Development Authority when it first began. And we were very active in those first 6 years in attracting businesses and keeping businesses here in Terrebonne Parish. And then after that, I got a phone call from Parish President Michel Claudet when he got elected in 2008. He saw what I was doing on TITA, and he said, Darrin, I want you to be my representative on the levy board. And I said, Michel, I don't know anything about levies. He said, well, I don't care. I want a businessman, and I like what you're doing at the Terrebonne Economic Development Authority. So I agreed and got on the levy board. So for 8 years, I learned all about drainage, dirts, public works contracts, learned the politics of it. And that's where Parish President Gordon Dove and I first became acquainted, actually State Representative Gordon Dove, right? So when Gordon Dove, 8 years goes by, when Gordon Dove decides to run for parish president, that's when I said, we need a very strong councilman in District 6 who can not only work for the people, but who can also work with Parish President Dove. Because understand, on the levy board, your goal is to stop water from coming in. But when you take a channel like the Houma Navigation Canal that's 2,000 feet wide, you now choke it down to 250 feet. It only makes sense that it's going to take longer to get the water out. So that's when we shifted gears. And for 8 years, Parish President Dove and I, of course, have tried to work on drainage, and as well as the whole council. Don't get me wrong. We've all worked together on that, as well as the other issues within our parish, and it's ready to move to the next step.
Let's talk about capital outlay, because as you know, being a councilman or being on levy district's a little different than being parish president. You got to lay out a plan. You got to submit it to the state. You have different phases, priorities, I should say. What would your capital outlay plan look in general? I know you can't get too specific because things morph, but in general, what would it look like?
Well, let's first look at the capital outlay plans from past parish presidents. Parish President Michel Claude was kind of known as a roads and bridges guy, right? He put a bunch of turning lanes in and stuff. He even dubbed himself as the turning lane king. Great job with that. Then Parish President comes in and he's the drainage and pumps guy. So we've improved the drainage and pumps. Moving forward, we need to take the best pieces of Parish President Michel Claude and the best pieces of Parish President Gordon Dove. We need to work on our roads. We need to continue to do our pumps and drainage. But the biggest thing is we need to work on our community. You know, we need to work on our community looking better. We need to work on our community as far as providing things for our young people to do, quality of life. We also need to work on our community to make it clean, make it an area when we're trying to attract business and they come and they see garbage on the side of the road or tall grass that's 3 feet high, it's very difficult to attract them. When I was on the Terrebonne Economic Development Authority, we looked at that very thing. And what we decided to do is when you turn on Highway 182 coming into Houma, it's not as pretty as when you turn on 24 and all in Gray. So what we did was we called it the business area or whatever. We called it an industrial corridor exit. And because we wanted everybody to go a certain way into Terrebonne Parish. That's because of that. And so if we work on the beautifying the entrances to the parish, as well as beautify the main areas of the parish, the rest of it is going to come along. The residents are going to get on board. You know, we need to make our community beautiful, safe, and I have a method of how we're going to do just those two things.
All right, but let's hold that thought. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with the candidate for Terrebonne Parish President, Darrin Guidry. Don't go away.
Terrebonne General Health System is the largest healthcare resource in Southeast Louisiana, offering a high-tech and high-touch style of healing. World-renowned services include cardiology, women's health, cancer care, and a healthy lifestyle center.
This is a true calling for all the physicians, nurses, and staff who make up our proud Terrebonne General family. We are here to provide healthcare for our community.
To discover more, please visit tghealthsystem.com.
Here in South Louisiana, we know how important it is to protect our families.
When one of our neighbors is injured because of someone else's neglect, our team is compelled to use our experience, skills, and knowledge to seek justice and hold wrongdoers accountable. If you've been injured and want to know your rights, call St. Martin and Bourke today.
Selecting an insurance provider for your business is a big decision.
With over 26 years of experience, our offered team is your solution for quality and proven coverage.
The customer service you remember from years ago is what we pride our team on.
We know how important your company is to the community.
From small businesses to large businesses, Alford & Associates can manage your insurance. It's our job.
Alford & Associates, benefiting your employees and protecting your business.
The new generation of Hondas are here at Barker Honda.
The all-new Accord, head of its class, miles ahead.
All new 2023 HRV and CRV.
And Pilot, built for every driving need. Family favorite Odyssey has all new trim levels.
Go everywhere with Passport. And the award-winning Civic.
The generation for every generation. And always remember, it's better at Barker.
All right, we're back with candidate Darrin Guidry for Terrebonne Parish President, and we're getting all the candidates in to answer some questions so you can get to know them. So, Darrin, I think we would all agree. Each parish president has their own strength, their own weakness. But Gordon Dove comes in, and the levees projects. The projects, the drainage, everything just picks up to a magnitude that was pretty much unprecedented. You again were on the levee district, Tony Alford and his whole crew. Magnificent job. If we could put everybody and really give kudos, we would have to do that. As parish president, what would you do to continue on the same path, change the same path, or tweak a few things? What's your vision for the levees and also the barrier islands?
Well, as you know, we've been working, flood protection is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Now, we've been working these last 8 years more on a sprint basis to try to catch up for things that haven't been done over the previous years. The next parish president is going to have to take that and is going to have to run with it in a more of a marathon type format. So yes, we're still going to have to continue drainage and pumps. But, you know, we're going to do it over the long haul. We're always going to be improving pumps. We're always going to be adding dirt to levees, right? That's going to be part of our parish presidents for many, many, many years to come. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have to be our only focus. And so moving forward, we have to make sure we're looking at every aspect of the parish. And I see that, I see the needs being a councilman for the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. I see firsthand the challenges that we're going to have in the next.
What about the barrier islands and also the marshes? Because the marshes are so vital. And we've seen cypress trees growing again in Terrebonne Parish, which is a beautiful thing to see. But what's your plan on working with the state to fund that?
Well, barrier islands are very important, and we have great sources of funding that you can use, and federal funding that you can use to do those sorts of projects, as well as some state funding that's dedicated to coastal restoration. So we have funds in place that we can use for that. They can't be used for anything else, and in that case, we need to make sure we do that. But understand that we're going to build wetlands through mitigation that the federal government requires us to do whenever people build in an area that is lowlands. You have to mitigate. You have to create marshland, and you create marshland outside of our levee system, right? So that's going to continue.
And sometimes you have to fight the feds or fight the state on mitigation. Are you up to that task?
Not only am I up to it, I've done it before. When I was on the chamber board in 2000. Of course, we started to really lobby for Morgans at the Gulf. So I've been in several missions to Washington, D.C., representing the Chamber, representing the Terrebonne Economic Development Authority, then representing the Levee Board. I understand how Washington, D.C. works. I understand the word bureaucracy. A bureaucrat finds ways that things can't be done, right? Mm-hmm. But we need to find ways that they can be done. So I understand how to work that system. We did that at the Levee Board. They prevented us from building Morganza because they said, you're building a system, and that system's not authorized. So what we did was we took individual reaches of that levee, and we built like connecting this road together with this railroad track. And we said it had independent utility, and we applied for a state permit. The Corps says, no, you're building a system. You got to stop. And we said, no, we're building a reach that has independent utility. Well, eventually we kept building these reaches and we only had a few holes. Then the Corps said, no, you're definitely building a system now. Well, we told the Corps, wait. You let us build all these little reaches. Now we have 2 holes. If those people flood because we have these 2 holes, it's your fault. Well, that's all you have to tell the feds, right? Cover your butt. They're like, okay. So they allowed us to continue. Those are the little tricks that you have to learn to work through bureaucracy.
Let's talk about oil and gas. We certainly all can agree without oil and gas, our economy goes in the tank. We've been thriving on it for so long. We have other things. We have a lot of medical. We have other things, but that's the big key, oil and gas. There's a lot of rumblings from a lot of people in that industry that they may relocate. Does this alarm you? And as parish president, what would you do to ensure that we're wooing people back into our parish and we're keeping the ones that are here?
Well, as we see, the oil and gas industry is under attack nationwide. It's under attack by Washington, D.C., And it's being under attack in Baton Rouge by suing the oil industry for things that happened years and years ago from companies that weren't even this company. It was this company was bought, this company bought this. It's called legacy lawsuits. They're going back, in some cases, 100 years and saying, oil industry, you have to pay for what happened 100 years ago. It's called a legacy lawsuit. It's going on right now in Baton Rouge. So Baton Rouge is attacking our oil industry, and D.C. is attacking our oil industry. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to continue to say, Terrebonne Parish, we work together with industry. We are pro-business. We're going to continue to fight lawsuits in Terrebonne Parish, right? We need to let the oil and gas industry know that the reason that we're not going to hold them accountable for something ultimately the Corps did, which was levy off the Mississippi. We don't have sediment coming in. That's the reason our coastland's eroding. You know, the oil and gas industry dug canals, right? They were allowed to stay open. The fishermen wanted them. They did it. They did what they did by law. And now we're going back and trying to sue them. I'm going to prevent that.
All right, let's hold that thought. We're going to come back. We have one more 7-minute segment with candidate Darrin Guidry. Don't go away.
Structural heart disease refers to a defect in the heart's valves, walls, or chambers that keeps the heart from pumping blood properly. Valve or structural heart problems may be present at birth or develop over time. Your risk increases if you have high blood pressure, plaque buildup, history of heart attack, take certain medications, or have certain heart infections. The Structural Heart Program at CIS and Terrebonne General provides innovative solutions and devices with the latest technology to bring the best possible outcomes for patients. Learn more at cardio.com.
A.J. Doman Chevrolet is happy to announce that we're South Louisiana's newest Car Bravo dealer. Now you can buy any used car truck with the confidence of a certified warranty and over 4,000 dealers to back it up. Not finding what you're looking for? Car Bravo offers up to an additional 500 units available online.
Visit us on the web at ajdomanchevy.com or at the foot of the Morgan City Bridge in Berwick.
At South Louisiana Bank, we're great at banking, but we're great at a lot of other stuff too.
Is that a new rod and reel?
Hey, a girl's got a fish.
We care about the community we live in and the people we serve. We're not just like you. We are you.
Are you boiling crawfish?
No, just letting them soak.
We're proud to be here and work for the place and the people we love. South Louisiana Bank. It's in the name.
Don't give up. At Waits & Downer Law Firm, we want to make sure that you have all the facts when dealing with your insurance company. We have the legal experience and ability to make them pay. Get the help you need. At Waits & Downer, it's our goal to not only get you a full damage recovery, but to get the insurance company to reimburse your legal fees. Call today for a free consultation. We are local and we are here to stay. Let our years of experience work for you.
All right, welcome back. Joined by candidate for parish president, Darrin Guidry. Let's talk about planning and zoning. Right now, the parish does the planning and zoning. They're doing the permitting. They're looking over the plans. As parish president, we hear certain candidates saying, well, I'm going to do it a little different, or I'm going to do it the same way. What would you do?
Well, first of all, how can you say you're going to do it different when you're not parish president? You know, as a councilman, we are privy to certain information. It seems from what I understanding, it seems like what we're doing right now is working, right? From what I understand. Nobody's called me as a councilman and said, I hate it. Now they'll call me and say, it's taking too long to get a permit because we're way behind because of the storm. We got the volume of permits that come in. And we try to address those issues when they come. Now, when I'm parish president, I'm going to look at the whole picture. I'm going to look at our permitting process, seeing how we're doing it now. If we can find a more efficient way to do it, I'm all game, right? But I can't say as a councilman, I can't say definitively what needs to be done in permitting. And I think somebody who's not a councilman definitely couldn't.
All right. Let's talk about insurance, especially after Ida. You've been on our show several times. We've talked about insurance. It's a disaster. People trying to get insurance. Some people are moving because they can't get insurance. As parish president, you're going to hold the key to getting people to listen. What would you say? What would you do?
Well, First of all, we have to work closely together with our legislators because it's a state issue. And so we need to make sure that we're all on the same page. I work very well together with Archie Chassaw in Lafourche Parish. I work also well together with the parish president in St. Mary Parish, although they'll have a new one, and also the parish president in St. Charles. We need to work together as a region so we're having a common voice in Baton Rouge to make sure we fix our insurance system. And that's the wind and hail. As far as our flood insurance rates, we're going to continue doing what we did last week, which was we voted to join a lawsuit against FEMA in their arbitrary risk rating 2.0, where they just decided to raise everybody's rates 18% a year for 30 or 40 years, making flood insurance unaffordable. We're hoping that we can go to court and get a stay on that. We're going to continue fighting that in court if we have to, in Washington and in Baton Rouge.
A lot of people confuse state roads with local roads. We all know that. Somebody's always complaining, but you go, that's a state road. And they go, oh, I didn't know that. Currently, Terrebonne Parish, I think, has 3 crews. Full time, they go around changing panels, changing curbs, fixing asphalt. Is this a good plan? Would you keep that or would you do something different?
As far as parish roads, I would continue a routine maintenance plan. I would step that up. But what I would also do is I would maintain the plan. In other words, people aren't going to call me and I've got a good buddy that has a road panel in front of his house that's broken up. And so I pull them off their routine and say, go do this one because this is a friend of mine, right? Then they have to demobilize, go do that one. Then they get back on their schedule and, oh, go do this. You'll never get through your schedule that way. You gotta, if it's a road that needs to be done, it's going to be in the schedule. Mm-hmm. If a good friend of mine calls, I'll say, look, I'm looking at the schedule and 6 months from now, it's scheduled to be replaced. Most people will say, okay, I don't need to pull that guy off the job to do my friend's road panel. And so we need to maintain that on the 7th floor of the government tower. We need to make sure that we have a procedure in place in maintenance, and it's not just a matter of taking care of the people you know.
All right, we got about 3 minutes left. Recreation. That was always a big, well, we spent a lot of time on recreation on this channel. As parish president, your thoughts on recreation, what would it look like?
Well, recreation, people say quality of life, right? I say quality of place. We have to make Terrebonne Parish a place that people want to get out, do, and see. When I started as a parish councilman 8 years ago, right, after the first year, I began a process to build a series of bike paths, multi-use pathways, right? Well, I worked together and got state funding for that. Now, it takes 5 years for that to happen. We are just breaking ground in September or October. It's supposed to be 4th quarter. We're breaking ground on a multi-use pathway, a 12-foot wide bike, walk, run path that's going to go from the Civic Center all the way to the Bayou Country Sports Park. Now, I started that when I became a councilman. We have other things that we started. The problem is it takes years for these things to come to fruition. So we're working on these quality of life projects, but it may not be for the child that is 13 years old right now. It may be for the child that's 5 or 6. But we're going to continue those types of projects.
All right, real quick, like in closing. Unprecedented amounts of money have been brought into Terrebonne Parish by our current parish president. Let's just be frank. He's brought in billions of dollars because of his relationships and his ability to fundraise in his relationships, period. Could you do the same thing?
Well, if you're a coach of a professional football team and you happen to be very good at offense, then you're going to have to hire a good defensive coordinator, right? You don't need to hire a good offensive one because you're good at offense. Mm-hmm. Well, Parish President Dove was very, very good at working the system in Baton Rouge, right? I'm very good at working other types of systems. I understand how Baton Rouge works, but we're going to have the right people in place, and we're going to work very closely together with our legislators. And the legislators ultimately are the ones that got the money here in Terrebonne Parish. So I'm going to work with those legislators, and we're going to continue to get money coming into Terrebonne Parish.
All right, Darrin, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. A lot more to come and a lot more of these segments to come. So you get to know who's running for parish president. We'll take a short break. Look for all the other candidates right here on Facebook and YouTube and HTV. We'll be back.